last night, but
Yeah.
we just got through watching some of your reels
Oh.
to get some background on you, and we saw a little bit about your background. But I think you have a pretty cool story on how you wound up at WLBT WDBD. So, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into how you got to Jackson?
Yeah. So I went to college in Arkansas at Arkansas State University. And when I first started college, I actually was a pre-nursing major. Believe it or not. I know that's very different. But I went to college knowing that I wanted to pursue journalism, but I had been discouraged by some members of my family and, telling me that nursing would be more of a stable career and I would make better money doing that. They weren't wrong. But, you don't get into this field for money. You have to love what you're doing. So around my sophomore year of college, I went ahead and changed my major because I didn't want to wonder what if, what would have happened if I did pursue that. So, and I thought it was important to go ahead and do what I wanted to do, even though I did have like an interest in helping people and learning about the body and everything, but I knew that this is what I really wanted to do.
That's awesome.
So I went to school there, graduated, and during my senior year, or just before my senior year of college, I interned at WREG, which is Channel 3 in Memphis.
Yep.
So I was doing that during the summer and working a part-time job. I was very busy. And once I graduated, a couple of months went by. We did have a local TV station there in Jonesboro, Arkansas, where Arkansas State is.
I've been there, the Red Wolves.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Wow, cool, small world. Yeah. Right now we have two stations. Well, at the time that was the legacy station and they were the only one there. But now we have two. But I decided I wanted to spread my wings and try to figure out, some other areas I could work in. But the thing is, when you start out in this field, and it's often for a lot of folks, or some folks, I'll say, you'll start off behind the scenes, like helping with production. And those jobs are not very high paying. I was getting a little more than a minimum wage. So I started out, I think it was about 5 or 6 months after graduation. I decided to stay there at KAIT in Jonesboro because I just thought it was best. I have family there, so it was best for me to go ahead and get that experience there where I had family. So I didn't really have to, worry about rent and other expenses and things like that. So when I started at KAIT, I was an associate producer. So I worked on the early morning shift, very similar to what I do now. But I had to come in at 11 p.m. 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow.
And I helped the main producers with writing material and editing the video that you guys see that pops up on the screen when the anchors are reading the stories. So I started from the bottom doing that. And during my time there, I eventually got promoted to becoming a reporter. And that was after I would spend some time with the morning anchor. So she would often, after the show was over, she would often go out and report on stories. So her job didn't end once the show was off air. She had other work to do. So I asked if I could tag along, and that's where I learned what reporters have to do and how I learned to use the camera and everything. So after a little bit of time, they trusted me to go get stories. So I was kind of doing like a dual role. I would go, do my producing thing when I came in, and if there was something that needed to be covered or if there was breaking news that happened, I would go out and get it.
That's awesome.
So I did that for a little while and got promoted to being a reporter, and did that for about a year. And there was a spot on the morning team. The morning anchor ended up moving, and they offered that to me. And that was the last thing I did before I moved down here. I know that was very long-winded, but how I ended up in Jackson is the guy that actually gave me my first job back there in Arkansas ended up moving down here. So when there was an opportunity for the weekend anchor that had opened up, he called and asked if I was interested, and I said, sure.
Awesome. Now you did mention a couple things that we have, because we actually have a multimedia academy here on campus at Velma Jackson. We're one of the only ones in the state. So we have students that are getting into these skills right now in ninth grade. So you did talk about, you said you had to work the camera, you had to find content, and on the videos that we saw, you're out in the floods, you're out in crime scenes, you're covering fires. So what other skill? I mean, and obviously I'm sure you had to have some sound and lighting knowledge as well. And on top of all that, at the end of the day, you had to be ready to go live on television at a moment's notice. So what are some of the other skills that go into that job?
I think time management is really important because you often have to cover like multiple things, especially when breaking news happens. And there's always going to be a newscast at the same time every day.
Yeah.
And, you need to get your stuff in before the newscast and make sure, because think of it like as a large puzzle. You need to do your part and make sure you put your puzzle parts in so that the rest of the puzzle parts here at the station can put theirs in, and what we broadcast on air is a clean product. Because when something's off, it throws everything off.
Yeah.
We can try to, get it back on track, but it just works out so much smoother if everyone just does their part and make sure that everything is done on time and correctly.
Now, during the newscast, about how many people are usually working?
We have a varying number depending on the shift. So we kind of have a little bit of a skeleton crew overnight because, those hours are not very appealing to most people. So there are, I would say, roughly at least 10 of us here overnight. And that is including the producers and the, we call them TMPs, technical media producers. So they are the ones that are like directing the shows and doing other things that you see on the technical aspects, showing what is broadcast on air, and the talent. So there's at least 10 of us. But there are more people here, like in the regular day side hours and night side.
Okay, give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that. But what are some of the other jobs? Like, because I know Ron McIntosh, and I know he does a lot with you guys, and he's not an on-camera person.
Yeah.
So what are if people want to work in this field but they don't want to be on camera, what are some of the other things that you guys do?
So you could be a producer, and they are the people that write the shows, and I'm trying not to use like news terminology. They decide what airs, like what's going to be shown that day. So they decide the flow of the stories, where it's going, and the showcasing. So maybe you see like a map and then some pictures, and then it goes to the anchor, and then they write the stories as well and edit video. So if you're really into that and you like the writing part, but you don't like being on camera, you could do that. We have the TMPs, and they run, this is new for us. I think we've had it at least for a year or maybe two now, but at some stations they have like actual manual like camera operators and audio operators. Well, we don't have that anymore because of this new system we have. So the people that do that, like Ron, he knows how to do that all just like from this console he has in front of him.
Oh, cool.
So it's not a specific person out in the studio running camera. We don't have camera operators anymore. So it's just like a bunch of robots in there. The only people in the studio now are the talent.
Wow, I did not know that. So the only time there's going to be somebody going to carry the cameras out in the field, I guess.
Yes, but with that, you could be a photographer. So those are the people that get the content for us. But as the reporter, you very seldom see reporters out with photographers all the time, unless there's a specific reason why they've been assigned with a photographer. But most of the time, and the way that they're teaching it in school now and what kids are learning out of college is to become a MMJ, which is a multimedia journalist. So that means you don't have a photographer. You are the photographer. You are the editor. You do everything by yourself.
Yeah, and that also makes you more marketable as an employee, because if you're able to do more, a station is more likely to use you because that's less people they have to get to do a job.
Yeah.
And you did talk about coming out of college. I know you're new to the area, but as far as around here, Would you say, I know Hines and Utica has the multimedia program, Jackson State has the mass communications program, and Southern Miss has the radio, television, and film program. What are some other schools that you know that have great journalism and media degree programs?
I know just based on some people I've met while working here, I know a few people have gone to Ole Miss.
Okay.
And they speak highly of that program. I know if people are interested on the meteorology side, I know Mississippi State is very popular for that program.
I didn't think about that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Um,
Mizzou, if they're looking to go out of state, I know an old coworker of mine went to Mizzou. That's a highly regarded school for journalism.
Okay.
And Arizona State University, I believe, they have a Walter Cronkite School of Journalism.
Now, last semester we had Melissa, and she told us about how she has to have makeup with her 24 hours a day, and she has to have a wardrobe ready to go at any moment's notice. So, how hard is that if you have to go on camera without a lot of notice?
I mean, you just got to do it. Sometimes, you're not going to look ready. You just have to tell the story. You just got to do it. So there are times where I'm like, I'm not ready, or I don't have my lips on, but the story's going to get told without my lips on. Because, we want to get you whatever is happening, whatever's unfolding, and especially if it's breaking news, we want to get it to you as soon as possible. So, you just have to forego the look sometimes. And like this morning, our morning reporters were out covering the storm damage, and they both just, had on a hat and a jacket, no makeup. Yeah, and you have to be prepared. So as an MMJ, before I started working on the morning show here, I was a fill-in anchor working with Howard in the evening, but I would also go report before the evening news. So oftentimes, like, things just happen. I may come to work like in a nice, pretty dress, but if a fire breaks out, I had another outfit ready in the car and my rain boots. That's a hard lesson I had to learn.
Wow.
I had ruined some shoes going to a fire wearing the wrong shoes. So the name of the game is really stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Just have whatever you need, and especially when it gets cold, have another change of clothes, socks, something warm, some snacks, because your days can get very busy. You may not necessarily have an hour lunch like you're supposed to. Sometimes you got to eat and drive, or just eat some crackers and hope for the best.
Man, I bet that was something working for me to work with Howard. That guy, he's the best I've ever seen. I bet you learned a lot from him.
Welcoming to me since I've stepped foot in here in any way he could, help me with whatever I needed. So
yeah, that's awesome. Now, also, how hard is it? And I've talked to several news people about this. How hard is it to stay neutral? Because I mean, most people just naturally are going to want to put in an opinion on a news story. But at the end of the day, you have to stay impartial because your audience. A great journalist, and we were just watching a video on this as well. A great journalist has to let the audience decide their own opinion.
Right. You just have to remember that it is not your job to tell someone how to think. You present it to them, and we are supposed to present both sides so we can inform you about what's going on. So we can't tell you, what to think. We're going to tell you what's going on, though.
Exactly. And before I get to some of these questions, and I got some really good ones from these ninth graders, but at the end of the day, it is a television show. So, I mean, you, Patrick, and Wilson have just the funniest chemistry, the best on-air chemistry, and some of y'all's behind-the-scenes videos are absolutely hilarious. So, because at the end of the day, it is a television show. So even though you are giving information and you are presenting news to the community, you have to bring in viewers as well. So how do y'all do that? Because, like I said, y'all's on-air chemistry is fantastic.
I think the great thing about working in mornings is that we get to be a little more lighthearted. Like, yes, we do have to tell you about the more serious things that are going on, but we do have those other areas of the show where we can laugh a little or joke a little or insert, our personalities more. That's particularly why I like the morning, but it's nice to be able to just have that balance and for the team to just have that chemistry naturally.
Yeah, and I'll make sure they get your social media information because you're a great follow. Because some of y'all's videos are absolutely hilarious.
Thank you. I love to have a little fun when we can. But living here, you know the kind of stuff we report.
Yeah.
So it's nice to take a break, blow some steam off every now and then.
Now, and again, all these are ninth graders. These are some great questions. But this was from Jamiria Luckett, and she says, "What do you like most about your job?"
I love the impact that it has. From just helping people start their day when I'm on the desk out there. People get to know us by waking up with us every morning, and they trust us to be a resource for them to find out what's going on in their community or trying to change things, help them address things in the community.
That's awesome. This is from Kendrick Lindsay, and he asked, when you got out of high school, was this something you knew you wanted to do?
Yes, I did. I actually ended up taking a journalism course on a whim in high school, and that's where I really fell in love with it. My high school teacher was a former newspaper reporter, so I felt like that was very useful in teaching us, how things really are. And growing up, my grandfather watched the news all the time. He kept it on CNN all the time. So that's where I guess I first became interested in it. But I really got into it after high school.
Oh, that's awesome. This is from Jakelia Crowley, and she asks, what is the most difficult challenge you face?
Learning that you're not going to be good at everything right off the bat, and that you're going to fail, but your failures will make you better. You got to fall down and scrape your knees sometimes so that you can learn and that you get better.
Yeah, I bet. This is from Patricia Evans. She's one of our multimedia students here at Velma Jackson, and she asked, what's the hardest part about your job?
Sometimes I'm working on like an emotional story. It's hard not to feel those things or sadness for families that are going through something that's just terrible, or wishing you could do more, but there's not really anything that I could personally do in a certain situation. So, but I just have to remind myself that I am human. I have emotions. So there have been times where I've gotten teary-eyed while interviewing someone because that empathy is there.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that on that end because I asked Melissa this. We asked Melissa the same question, and she said the hardest part for her is not to react when she sees something that costs so much. And she said she's almost gotten in trouble a few times by being shocked at a price live on the air. So I'm sure the human element comes out at some point.
Oh yeah.
Now, just for clarification, for these kids to watch you guys are on channel 3 from 4:30 to 7.
Yeah, so
then we're all at school then, but WDBD from 7 to 9. But you do the local breaks during the Today Show on WLBT as well, correct? Because how does all that work?
So we are on air on LBT channel 3 from 4:30 to 7. And Cheryl Lassiter does the 4:30 to 5, and then Wilson, Barbie, and Patrick and I do it from 5 to 7. Okay. And then we switch over to Fox 40 from 7 to 9. And then Patrick does like the weather cut-ins, I think. Or no, we start the other break-ins on the Today Show from about like 7:30 on. And then we come back for our 11 o'clock show on LBT, WLBT. Now, that one's more of like a lighthearted, kind of loosey-goosey, funny stuff.
Yeah, and you said, and it's like you said, the morning, the midday, the evening, and the late night are all completely different broadcasts.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing your audience and knowing what they want to see, because at the end, like I said, at the end of the day, it's a television show. You got to get viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you got to go, and I know, and we appreciate you taking some time for us. And
no problem.
Schedule, and I know the state test threw off our schedule, and we appreciate you working with us. But I have a room full here of future young Black professionals, and I know you've grown up all over the country and in Japan, and that's so cool because I had my uncle was in the Navy as well.
Cool.
Yeah, my cousin was actually born in Hawaii.
Awesome.
Yeah, it must be tough, but but being a successful Black woman in a male dominated industry. Even if these kids, because some of these, never want to be on TV, that I can't even get them to talk to me. So obviously they don't want to be on TV, but being young Black people in Mississippi, what can you tell them to go through they face the same challenges that you faced growing up. So how can you tell them to be as successful as you've become?
Don't dim your light. don't make make you feel uncomfortable about your big personality if you have it, or who you are. You don't have to change who you are to make other people feel comfortable. Because I think that's something I'm still discovering as an adult, is just, being comfortable with who I am and loving myself and kind of muting the noise from outside forces. So having a good support system, not dimming your lights to please others.
That's awesome. Yeah, and once we can have people back on campus, we'd love to have you here. We got several, with our multimedia and then our homecoming events and things. We'd love to have. We've had Howard before, so we'd love to have you here on campus whenever we can get people back. But I'll make sure they get your social media information. They can follow you, so they can watch.
Yeah.
I think you're a great example in the community, and you're just doing some great things. And we appreciate you taking some time for us today.
No problem. I do want to say this, and this is not to discourage anyone, but I think a lot of people have the wrong idea about like exactly what this work entails, and they think it's a very glamorous job. It's not. And like I said, you often.
I'm in the same boat with you on that one.
Huh?
I'm in the same boat with you on that one. It's all about the reward, not about the money.
Yes, and when you graduate, you often will start behind the scenes, like I said earlier, or it may take you a couple of stations before you get to where you want to be. So you're not going to be Howard Ballou, you're not going to be Maggie right out of graduation.
Yeah.
But it's something that you really love. You just have to really like buckle down and do the work, because it is a lot of work. But as long as you do it, and your leadership in the newsroom will notice, and you could advance to those positions that you want to be in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what these kids don't understand. Howard Ballou and Maggie Wade, as great as they are, they paid their dues just like anybody else. Two of the hardest working people you'll ever meet.
Maggie, I believe she started here as a receptionist.
Yeah. She was in college.
Yeah.
And hearing Howard's story is just, it'll blow your mind, all the stuff that he's gone through to get where he is. But as great as they are, you're right. They work their tails off to get where they are. And that's why they're so good.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. And a lot of kids are going to see this later. We've recorded it, so a lot of kids at the county schools will get to see this. And I'll get with you next year. We'd love to have you here on campus.
Awesome. Yeah, so just let them know they can reach out to me if they have any other questions.
All right. Thank you so much, and have a great 11 o'clock show.
Thank you. See you later.
All right, see ya.
Bye.